I was standing at my bedroom door, my worn leather suitcase in hand, tickets to Barcelona tucked safely in my passport holder, when my phone buzzed with a message that would shatter everything I thought I knew about family. "You're not coming to Spain with us. My husband thinks this vacation should be just for immediate family." They took his parents instead and left me, their father, behind. This is after I had just finished paying off their dream home. So I canceled every single payment and sold their house right out from under them. You won't believe the chaos that erupted when they returned from their Spanish getaway. Before we dive into this incredible story of revenge and justice, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to this channel. I was carefully folding my favorite navy linen shirt, the one I'd planned to wear to that rooftop restaurant in Madrid that Emma had circled in her travel guide. The fabric felt crisp between my fingers as I smoothed away the wrinkles, imagining myself sipping sangria while watching the sunset over the Spanish countryside. My black leather suitcase lay open on my bed like a promise waiting to be fulfilled, already half-packed with the clothes I'd selected for our 3-week European adventure. The weather forecast for Madrid showed perfect temperatures, sunny and warm, ideal for the walking tours I'd spent hours researching and printing out. I'd even learned basic Spanish phrases, practicing them while I decided between my comfortable brown leather loafers and my reliable walking shoes. The e-tickets to Madrid Barajas Airport sat on my nightstand next to my passport, both documents pristine and ready for the journey ahead. 8 hours until departure. My heart carried that familiar cocktail of pre-travel excitement, mixed with the nervous energy that comes before any big adventure. I'd been humming old Spanish guitar melodies I'd found on YouTube while debating whether to pack my rain jacket or leave room for souvenirs. Then my phone buzzed again with that distinctive notification sound. Emma's name flashed across the screen, and I set down the shirt I'd been folding, expecting last-minute packing reminders, or perhaps a change in our meeting time at the airport. Instead, I found words that made my entire world come crashing down. "You're not coming to Spain with us. My husband believes this vacation should stay within immediate family only." I read the message once, then twice, then a third time, my thumb hovering over the screen as if staring longer might somehow change the words. The sweater I'd been about to pack remained suspended in my hands while my mind struggled to process what I was seeing. Immediate family only. The phrase echoed in my head like a broken record player stuck on the same devastating note. I was her father. I had organized this entire trip, researched every restaurant, mapped out every museum, planned every single detail during countless sleepless nights of excited preparation. What could immediate family only possibly mean when you were looking at a message from your own flesh and blood? I sank down heavily onto the edge of my bed, the open suitcase mocking me with its half-packed contents. My hands trembled as I typed the only response my shocked mind could formulate. "I understand." But I didn't understand. Not at all. The weight of rejection settled into my chest like a lead blanket. I looked around my bedroom, taking in everything I'd prepared for a journey that would never happen. The travel-sized toiletries lined up like soldiers on my dresser, the guidebooks with colorful sticky notes marking every place we'd planned to visit together, the new digital camera I'd bought specifically for this trip, still sealed in its box, waiting to capture memories that would never be made. I closed the suitcase with deliberate, methodical movements. Each click of the metal latches sounded like a funeral bell in the quiet room. Then I picked up my phone and called the airline, listening to cheerful hold music while I waited to cancel my ticket to what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. "I'm sorry to hear about your change of plans, Mr. Martinez," the customer service representative said with practiced sympathy, and I wondered if she could hear the heartbreak in my voice as I confirmed the cancellation. Afterward, I sat in my living room staring at the Spanish travel brochures scattered across my coffee table like broken dreams. The house felt emptier than it ever had before, quieter in a way that made the silence ring in my ears. Outside, I could hear the neighbor's lawnmower starting up, life continuing normally while my world had just been turned upside down. I picked up one of the brochures. a glossy pamphlet about the architecture of Barcelona, and slowly placed it in my desk drawer. The simple action felt monumental, like I was burying not just a vacation but years of trust and love I'd foolishly believed was mutual. Evening crept in with the same hollow emptiness that had filled my house all day. I'd moved through the hours like a ghost, leaving my dinner dishes unwashed in the sink instead of cleaning them immediately like I always did. The packed suitcase still sat by my bedroom door, a constant reminder of dreams that had been crushed with a single text message. The television droned softly from the living room, some evening news program I wasn't really watching. I kept checking my phone compulsively, scrolling through nothing, restless energy making my fingers dance across the screen. Maybe social media would provide some distraction from the hollow ache in my chest. I scrolled past the usual content: Mrs. Rodriguez's flower garden photos, recipe shares from my book club, political posts I had no energy to read. The familiar blue glow of Facebook was oddly comforting in the growing darkness of my living room. Then I saw it and my blood turned to ice. David's parents standing in front of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, both beaming at the camera with the satisfied expressions of tourists who'd found the perfect photo opportunity. The caption read, "Starting the most amazing family vacation of our lives." The timestamp showed it was posted just 3 hours ago. My thumb froze above the screen. Maybe they'd taken a separate trip. Maybe this was an old photo they just decided to share. My heart began hammering against my ribs as I clicked on the profile to see more recent posts. There it was. Same location, same timestamp. But this photo showed 4 people. David's parents, David and Emma, all clustered together at a tapas bar, wine glasses glinting in the Spanish sunlight behind them. Emma's caption felt like a knife to my heart. "So grateful for quality family time in beautiful Spain." I counted the faces in the photo with shaking fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The word family burned in my mind like a brand. I set the phone down on the coffee table, its screen still glowing with their radiant faces. I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at my neighbor's house where warm yellow lights spilled from every window. Real families together for the evening, unlike the fool who'd been so easily discarded. The betrayal hit me in waves, each one more devastating than the last. I picked up the phone again, hoping desperately that I'd misunderstood somehow, that the photos would tell a different story. But they were still there. Timestamps still fresh, their smiles still bright and carefree in the Spanish sunshine. There they were, the 4 of them together in the city I'd dreamed of visiting, enjoying the vacation I'd planned down to every detail, following the itinerary I'd spent months researching and perfecting. I walked back to the kitchen window and caught sight of my own reflection staring back at me, ghostly and hollow-eyed in the glass. Behind my reflection, the phone screen still displayed their group photo. Their joy was overlaid with my solitary image, creating a stark and painful visual reminder of exactly where I stood in their definition of immediate family. The contrast was devastating, a perfect representation of how thoroughly I'd been erased from their lives. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning while images of their vacation photos played behind my closed eyelids like a torture device. Morning arrived with gray light filtering through my bedroom curtains, and I knew I needed answers. I couldn't let this betrayal stand without understanding the why behind it. My coffee mug trembled slightly in my hands as I sat at my kitchen table, rehearsing what I would say to Emma. The time difference meant it was late afternoon in Spain, perfect timing for a call. I took a deep breath and dialed her number, listening to the expensive international ringtone that reminded me of everything I was being excluded from. 3 rings. 4 rings. Then her voice, bright and cheerful. "Hi, Dad." I could hear background noise, David's laughter, street sounds, the vibrant atmosphere of a Spanish city in full swing. "I need to understand something," I said without any preamble. "What's that?" She sounded distracted, probably admiring some cathedral or street performer. "I saw the photos on Facebook. David's parents are there with you." There was a pause, a long, telling pause. Then her voice changed, becoming defensive and cold. Dad, we can explain. You said it was immediate family only. What am I then? Her tone shifted even colder. Look, David said you can be overwhelming sometimes. He didn't want his vacation ruined by constant demands for attention. The word overwhelming hit me like a physical blow. Ruined. As if my presence was some kind of burden to be avoided. I planned this entire trip, I said, my voice barely controlled. I researched every restaurant, every museum, And David's parents paid for their own way, she interrupted sharply. They don't expect us to take care of them constantly like some people do. Constantly. The word hung in the air between us like an accusation. I supported you both when you needed it, I said, because that's what fathers do. We never asked for guilt trips about money, she snapped back. I could hear David laughing in the background about something completely unrelated, his voice carefree and oblivious to our conversation. The sound made my jaw clench with fury. Honestly, Dad, Emma continued, her voice hardening with each syllable. David was right about you. You're just too needy and clingy, it's exhausting. The phone felt like it weighed 100 pounds in my hand. Those words, needy and clingy, from my own daughter's mouth. I understand perfectly now, I said. Good. We'll talk when we get back home. Yes, we certainly will. I hung up without saying goodbye, setting the phone down with deliberate care. The word needy echoed in my mind like a curse that had been placed on me. I walked slowly to my home office, drawn by an instinct I couldn't name. The walls were covered with family photos, memories of what I'd thought was love but was apparently just financial convenience. Me teaching Emma to ride her first bike, her face bright with trust and joy. Her college graduation where I'd wiped away tears of pride. Her wedding day, where I'd walked her down the aisle with my heart bursting with happiness and hope for her future. My hands slowly clenched into fists as I stared at these images of a relationship I'd apparently misunderstood completely. In one photo, I was holding baby Emma in my arms, both of us smiling at the camera with pure, uncomplicated love. My reflection in the glass covering the photo showed an older man now, harder, with something cold and determined growing behind his eyes. I reached out and straightened the photo frame with careful, precise movements. The small action felt significant somehow, like I was adjusting more than just a crooked picture. I was adjusting my entire perspective on what family really meant. I remained in my office long after the call ended, surrounded by the evidence of what I'd believed was love but was apparently just usefulness. Each photo on the wall told a story I was only now beginning to understand with crystal clarity. The wedding photo, where I'd walked Emma down the aisle, I'd spent $35,000 on that perfect day because I wanted nothing but happiness for my little girl. The college graduation picture, I'd covered her student loans when David couldn't find stable work after his own graduation, depleting my savings account without a second thought. The house hunting photos scattered across my desk, I'd co-signed their mortgage when the banks wouldn't approve them on their own, putting my own credit on the line for their dream home. Christmas morning photos showed expensive gifts piled under trees I'd bought and decorated, birthday celebrations where my carefully chosen presents were opened last, almost as an afterthought while David's family gifts took center stage. Each memory added another stone to the crushing weight in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out bank statements and receipts I'd kept out of habit, the paper trail of my own exploitation. The down payment for their house, $85,000 from my retirement fund, money I'd saved for decades for my own golden years, car payments I'd taken over when David lost his first job, month after month of $400 payments, credit card bills I'd paid when they claimed they couldn't make ends meet, thousands of dollars in charges for things they'd called necessities. The vacation fund I'd been building for years, money that had bought their tickets to Spain while leaving me behind like unwanted baggage. But it wasn't just about the money, though. That was devastating enough. I remembered the sacrifices that went deeper than dollars and cents. The fishing trip with my old army buddies that I'd canceled because Emma needed babysitting, the woman from my book club, Margaret, who'd asked me to dinner multiple times, I'd always said no because Emma needed help with something, moving, decorating, dealing with David's mood swings. My own travel dreams postponed year after year while I funded theirs. Sunday dinners where David barely acknowledged my presence, checking his phone while I tried to make conversation. Holiday gatherings where I felt like an outsider in my own daughter's home, watching David's family laugh and bond while I sat quietly in the corner. The pattern was so clear now I couldn't believe I'd been blind to it for so long. My hands shook as I stacked the photos face down, unable to look at those happy memories that now felt like lies. The word needy played on repeat in my mind like a broken record. Suddenly, with startling and painful clarity, I understood the difference between being loved and being useful. They'd never asked me to join their lives. They'd asked me to fund them. I stood up so fast my desk chair rolled backward and hit the wall with a bang. In the mirror above my desk, I saw someone who'd been taken advantage of for years. Someone who'd confused generosity with love and received manipulation in return. The reflection showed a man who'd been patient and giving and trusting, and had been repaid with betrayal and dismissal. But there was something else in that reflection now. A steely determination I hadn't seen in years. I opened my laptop and stared at my online banking dashboard, the cursor hovering over the authorized users section, where both Emma and David had access to my accounts for emergencies. My finger trembled above the trackpad, one click away from changing everything. But I closed the laptop without clicking. Some decisions required more than impulse. Some decisions required careful planning. I sat in the heavy silence of my office, the closed laptop before me like a door I wasn't quite ready to open yet. The weight of years of manipulation pressed down on my shoulders, but underneath that weight, something new was growing. Something that felt like power. Then my phone cut through the silence with that familiar ping of my banking app notification. I almost ignored it, expecting just another routine alert about my monthly utility bill or grocery store purchase. But something made me pick it up. Maybe just the need for any distraction from the dark thoughts circling in my mind like vultures. The screen showed, account alert, transaction processed. I opened the banking app with my fingerprint, half expecting to see my monthly electric bill or pharmacy charge. Instead, the transaction details loaded like a punch to the gut. 2:47 p.m., Casa de Tapas, Madrid, Spain, $127.50. The timestamp showed just 1 hour ago, right around their lunchtime in Spain. My mind connected the dots with crystal clear, painful understanding. Emma had used my authorized user card. I'd given her that access years ago when she was struggling to build credit, back when I thought I was helping her become financially independent. The irony was so bitter I could taste it. They'd excluded me from their immediate family vacation, but had no problem using my money to pay for their fancy Spanish meals. I scrolled through recent transactions, my disbelief growing with each entry. Hotel charges at premium Madrid locations, shopping at expensive boutiques on Gran Via, tourist attractions and museum admissions, wine tours and flamenco shows, all on my card, all while David's parents supposedly paid their own way and didn't expect to be taken care of constantly. I stood up, pacing around my office with the phone clutched in my hand. Every family photo on the wall looked different now, like evidence in a case I was finally beginning to solve. The phrase formed in my mind, clear and certain. This is my chance. I opened the card management section of the app, navigating to the authorized users page. Emma's name sat there in stark black letters, representing years of financial access I'd granted out of love and received exploitation in return. Another notification pinged on my screen, 8950, Boutique Flamenco, Madrid, Spain. She was shopping for souvenirs while I sat alone in my house processing the magnitude of their betrayal. That decided it for me. My finger hovered over the Remove User button for just a moment. Years of being the supportive, generous father warred with the growing certainty that support and exploitation were entirely different things. The confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. I selected yes. Then, remove immediately. The screen confirmed. Authorized user access revoked effective immediately. I felt my first taste of real control in years, a sensation both foreign and intoxicating. I set the phone down on my desk with deliberate care, looking at my reflection in the dark computer screen. For the first time in days, a small smile crossed my face. It wasn't a kind smile. I walked to my kitchen to make fresh coffee, my movements more purposeful than they'd been since receiving that first devastating text. The coffee maker gurgled to life, and through my window I could hear my neighbor's lawnmower starting up. Ordinary life continuing while my quiet revolution began. The next morning found me at my kitchen table, actually enjoying my coffee for the first time in days. The morning paper lay spread before me, something about local school board elections, when my phone rang with aggressive persistence. The international number was one I recognized, and I checked the time. 9:30 a.m. here, which meant 4:30 p.m. in Madrid. Perfect timing for their afternoon shopping excursion. I let it ring 3 times before answering, no longer eager to please or worried about missing their call. "Good morning, Emma. How are you enjoying Spain?" "Dad, what did you do to the credit card?" Her voice was immediately sharp and demanding. No pleasantries, no concern for how I was doing after their cruel exclusion. "I removed your access to my account." "Don't play games with me." "I tried to pay for lunch and it was declined in front of David's parents. The waiter had to come back 4 times while I tried different cards. It was absolutely humiliating." "That must have been embarrassing," I replied calmly, taking another sip of my coffee. Embarrassing? It was mortifying. David's parents had to pay for everyone's meal. You can't just do that to us. "Can't I?" "I need that card access. You have to fix this right now." "For what exactly? I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly like some people." "That's completely different." Her voice was getting higher and more shrill with each word. "Is it? How exactly?" There was a pause, and I could hear muffled, heated conversation in the background, David's voice angry and insistent. She came back on the line with pure venom. "You fix this right now, or there will be serious consequences when we get home." "What kind of consequences?" I asked with genuine curiosity. "David and I have been talking about your behavior. When we get back, we're looking into care facilities for you." My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. "Care facilities? You're getting older, Dad, and you're obviously not handling your finances responsibly anymore. We think it's time you had professional supervision." The cruelty in her tone took my breath away. "We'll sell your house to pay for the facility," she continued. "You don't need all that space anyway, rattling around alone like some pathetic old man." I heard David's voice clearly in the background. "Tell him it's for his own good." "David says it's for your own good," Emma repeated dutifully. I sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of their threats. They wanted to institutionalize me and sell my home because I'd stopped funding their vacation spending spree. The audacity was absolutely breathtaking. "Dad, are you listening to me? Restore my card access immediately." I heard every single word. "Good. So you'll fix it right now?" "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no. Enjoy the rest of your immediate family vacation." "Dad, don't you dare hang up on—" I ended the call and set the phone face down on the table. My hands were perfectly steady as I took a long, satisfying sip of coffee, looking out my kitchen window at my well-maintained yard and the house I'd lived in for 30 years. The house I owned outright, with my name alone on the deed. The house they thought they could sell to warehouse me somewhere convenient. I stood up with new purpose, leaving my coffee unfinished, and walked toward my home office with determined steps. There was important work to be done, and I was just getting started. I pulled my house deed from the filing cabinet, spreading it across my desk like a battle plan. But it wasn't my own deed I was studying most carefully. It was the second property document I kept in the same folder. The deed for Emma and David's house on Elm Street. My name alone on the title, just as it had been since I'd purchased it for them 2 years ago. I remembered that conversation so clearly now. "Just until we get approved for the mortgage, Dad." We'll transfer it to our names once everything gets settled with the bank. But they'd been too busy with their lives to handle the paperwork, always promising to take care of it next month, or after the holidays, or when things slow down at work. There was always some excuse, some reason to delay. I found Robert Kim's business card in my desk drawer. He'd handled both property purchases for me, a solid, trustworthy realtor who understood the value of discretion. I grabbed my car keys and headed for the door. The drive to his office took me through the familiar streets of Millbrook, past the elementary school where Emma had learned to ride her bike in the parking lot on weekends. Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden as I backed out of my driveway, her friendly gesture a reminder that this appeared to be just another ordinary Tuesday morning. 25 minutes later, I parked outside Kim Realty, housed in a converted colonial that Robert had restored with obvious care and attention to detail. Robert looked up from his computer as I entered, surprise and genuine pleasure crossing his features. "Gary, great to see you. How's retirement treating you? I need to sell the Elm Street property, quickly." He paused, his experienced eyes reading something in my expression that made him choose his words carefully. "The house you bought for Emma, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I just need it sold as soon as possible. What's the current market like?" Robert turned to his computer, pulling up comparable sales with professional efficiency. "Market's absolutely on fire right now. Properties like that in that neighborhood. I'd say $195,000, maybe $200,000. You paid $140,000 2 years ago, so that's a solid return on investment." The numbers hit me with deep satisfaction. "How quickly are we talking?" Robert asked. "As fast as possible. Price it to move." He pulled out listing paperwork and property inspection schedules, his movements practiced and reassuring. "We'll need professional photos, maybe some light staging to show it at its best. I could have my team there tomorrow morning." "The house is currently occupied." "Oh, will Emma be handling the showings and coordination?" "Emma's in Spain. I have keys." Robert looked slightly confused but remained professionally accepting. We discussed listing price, commission rates, and closing timelines. I signed the listing agreement with firm, decisive strokes. "I'll start the marketing campaign immediately," Robert said. "In this market, we could easily have multiple offers within the first week." We shook hands, and I appreciated his professionalism, the way he asked no unnecessary questions and simply focused on getting the job done efficiently. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in months. The classical music station filled the silence as I drove slowly through downtown Millbrook, seeing my hometown with completely new eyes. At a red light, a young family crossed in the crosswalk, father carrying a toddler, mother pushing a stroller, both of them laughing at something the child had said. I remembered when Emma was that age, before everything became about money and what I could provide rather than who I was as a person. I pulled into my driveway and sat for a moment, looking at my mailbox with Martinez painted on it in faded blue letters. The name felt different now, like it meant something again instead of just being a convenient source of funding. Walking up my front steps, keys jingling in my hand, I felt a sound that promised many more changes were coming. Inside my house, I opened my laptop to find an email notification from the MLS listing service. Property listed successfully, 247 Elm Street. Seeing those words on the screen gave me a surge of satisfaction, but there was still more work to be done. I opened a new browser tab and searched Moving Services Millbrook. Large corporate companies filled the first results, but I scrolled past them, looking for something more personal and reliable. I found Pete's Reliable Moving, a small, family-owned operation with excellent reviews, in business for 12 years. The kind of company where you talk to the actual owner, not some call center representative reading from a script. I dialed the number, hoping for exactly that kind of personal service. "Pete's Moving. This is Pete speaking." The voice was gruff but friendly, completely straightforward with no corporate nonsense. "I need help moving some belongings tomorrow. It's a time-sensitive situation." "What kind of timeline we talking about?" "Tomorrow morning, if possible. It's a full house worth of furniture and personal items." "Where are we moving from and to?" Pete asked. I gave him Emma's address, explaining that everything needed to go to a storage facility. "Got a storage unit lined up?" he asked practically. I realized I needed to arrange that as well. "I can recommend Secure Store on Pine Avenue," Pete continued. "I work with them all the time. Honest people, fair prices. Want me to call them for you?" Within minutes, I had Linda from Secure Store on a three-way call, discussing logistics with the efficiency of people who'd handled these situations many times before. "For a full house, you'll want at least a 10x20 unit," Pete advised. "Maybe 10x25 if there's a lot of furniture. First month paid in advance, that's $140 for the larger unit," Linda added. "Can someone meet us there tomorrow morning to handle the paperwork?" "I'll take the larger unit," I decided. "And yes, I can meet you there." Back on the phone with Pete alone, we finalized the details. "My truck and 3 guys. We can start at 8 a.m. sharp. What's that address again?" I provided Emma's Elm Street address, adding carefully, "The residents are out of town. I'd prefer to have everything completed before they return." "Understood. Family situation?" Pete's tone suggested he'd navigated these waters before and knew how to be discreet. "Something like that." "Been there myself, buddy. We'll be efficient and respectful of everyone involved." After ending the calls and paying for storage online, I made myself dinner with an appetite I hadn't felt in days. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., earlier than my usual retirement schedule, and laid out work clothes, my old jeans and steel-toed boots from my construction days, back when I built things instead of just funding other people's dreams. I sat in my living room that evening watching the local news with different eyes. The weather forecast promised clear skies, perfect conditions for moving. Everything was falling into place with a precision that felt both satisfying and inevitable. That night, I double-checked that my phone was charging, setting it on my nightstand next to a glass of water. In the bathroom mirror while brushing my teeth, I saw someone I barely recognized, someone ready for action. Someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to take control of his own life. I arrived at the Elm Street property at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early as was my lifelong habit. The familiar house looked different to me now. Not my daughter's home, but simply a property that needed to be cleared efficiently. Pete's moving truck was already parked outside, engine running, exhaust visible in the crisp morning air. Pete emerged from the cab as I pulled up. A stocky man in his 50s with the practical demeanor of someone who'd handled countless family situations without passing judgment. His crew members, 2 younger guys in matching company shirts, were already unloading equipment with smooth, efficient movements. "Mr. Martinez." Pete extended a work-roughened hand. "Ready to get this done?" I unlocked the front door with my spare key. The house was silent and empty, in a way that felt oddly appropriate. We walked through each room systematically, Pete assessing furniture and personal belongings with a professional eye. "This is going to take about 4 hours, maybe 5 with all the heavy pieces," he said, making notes on his clipboard. "You want everything, right? Nothing stays behind?" I pointed out what belonged to Emma and David, which was essentially everything in the house. The expensive leather sectional I'd bought them for Christmas. David's elaborate gaming setup in what he called his man cave. Emma's extensive wardrobe that filled 2 entire walk-in closets. The crew started with the bedrooms, wrapping and labeling everything with systematic care. I insisted on helping despite Pete's protests about insurance liability. "I'm not that old yet," I told him, earning a grin from one of the younger workers. Soon I was carrying boxes labeled Emma's books and David's sports equipment, feeling a strange satisfaction at seeing their possessions being methodically packed away. In their bedroom closet, I found photo albums from their wedding. Flipping through the pages, I noticed I was conspicuously absent from most pictures, David's family prominent in every shot while I appeared in maybe 5 photos total, always pushed to the edges of the frame. I closed the album and handed it to Pete's crew without a word. Room by room, we cleared out expensive items I'd forgotten I'd purchased for them. Designer handbags Emma had called necessities. The latest gaming console David had claimed he needed for stress relief. The leather dining room set I'd bought for their first anniversary. barely used because they preferred eating in front of the television. My back started to ache from the physical labor, but I pushed through, driven by a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. In what had been planned as a future nursery, I found baby furniture they'd optimistically assembled for grandchildren that never came. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Too vindictive? Then I found David's credit card statements showing luxury purchases made while they were crying poverty to me, and any doubt evaporated completely. "You doing okay, Mr. Martinez?" Pete asked, noticing my pause. "Just memories," I said. "Keep going." By noon, we'd finished loading the truck. We did a final walkthrough of the empty house, our footsteps echoing differently in the vacant rooms. Afternoon sunlight streamed through bare windows onto floors that hadn't been this empty since the day I'd bought the place. I locked up and pocketed the keys, following the moving truck to secure store where I watched their belongings disappear behind the metal door of Unit 23C. I paid Pete in cash, adding a generous tip for his crew. "Hope everything works out for you, Mr. Martinez," he said with genuine warmth. "I think it will," I replied, meaning it completely. Driving home alone, I saw my phone lighting up with multiple notifications. I pulled into my garage before checking, the device buzzing insistently in the cup holder like an angry wasp trapped in a jar. Inside my house, I finally looked at the buzzing phone to find a cascade of Facebook notifications. Emma had posted several increasingly frantic status updates. "Some people have absolutely no respect for family boundaries or privacy. Can't believe the selfishness of certain family members right now." The comments showed concerned friends asking what had happened, with Emma playing the victim role to absolute perfection. I closed Facebook without responding and called Robert Kim. "Gary, fantastic news." Robert's voice was excited. "We already have a serious buyer. Cash offer, no contingencies." "Already?" It had been less than 24 hours. "Young professional couple, just relocated here for work. They love the neighborhood and the house shows beautifully. The offer is $198,000, even higher than we projected." The number hit me with deep satisfaction. "When do they want to close?" That's the beautiful part. They want to close immediately. They're in a corporate apartment month to month and would love to move in this weekend if possible. I checked my calendar. Today was Thursday. This weekend? They're highly motivated buyers with pre-approved financing. I can have all the paperwork ready by tomorrow afternoon if you're willing to do an expedited closing. Make it happen. Friday morning found me at the title company office, signing papers with methodical precision. I met the buyers, Michael and Jessica Chen, early 30s, the kind of hopeful young couple that reminded me of Emma and David before cynicism and entitlement took hold. "We absolutely love what you've done with the landscaping," Jessica said during our final walkthrough of the empty house. "I didn't mention that the landscaping hadn't been my work. It's perfect for starting a family," Michael added, accepting the keys with obvious excitement. "We can move in tomorrow morning." The bank transfer confirmation appeared on my phone. $198,000 minus realtor fees and closing costs equaled $58,000 profit. I'd turned my gesture of parental love into a solid business victory. Saturday morning, I decided to drive by the property one final time. I arrived to see a U-Haul truck in the driveway, and Michael directing movers with infectious energy. A crib was being carried inside, new life beginning in a house that had seen too much disappointment and betrayal. I parked across the street, watching Jessica plant colorful flowers in the front garden while Michael assembled a swing set in the backyard. Young love, fresh starts, hope for the future. My phone rang with that familiar international ringtone, and I answered just as a taxi pulled up to the house. Perfect timing. Emma stepped out first, exhausted from the long flight but immediately alert as she surveyed the scene before her. David paid the driver, his face shifting from confusion to alarm as he processed the U-Haul truck and complete strangers in what he considered his driveway. "Excuse me," David called to Jessica, who looked up from her gardening with friendly curiosity. "What are you doing in our house?" Michael appeared in the doorway, official paperwork in his hand, looking genuinely confused. Your house? I think there's been some kind of mistake. I got out of my car and walked calmly toward the unfolding scene, pulling a manila envelope from my jacket pocket with deliberate slowness. Emma spotted me approaching, her face shifting from confusion to understanding to pure, undiluted fury in the span of 3 seconds. Dad, what is going on here? Why are strangers in our house? Emma's voice carried that sharp, demanding edge I'd grown so tired of hearing over the years. Michael and Jessica exchanged worried glances, Jessica still holding her gardening trowel like she might need to defend her new home from these angry strangers. Sir, I don't know who you are, David said to Michael, his voice dripping with arrogance, but you need to move your belongings out of our house immediately. Michael held up his paperwork with calm authority. I have the deed right here. We closed yesterday. This is legally our property now. That's impossible. David's face was turning red. This is our house. We live here. Jessica's voice was small but determined. Maybe we should call the police to sort this out. I stepped forward, my voice carrying the calm authority I'd learned during my years managing construction projects. That won't be necessary. I addressed Michael and Jessica first. I apologize for this confusion. Please continue with your move-in process. Then I turned to Emma and David, my voice steady and final. The house was sold because it belonged to me. David's face went from red to purple. What do you mean it belonged to you? Check the original deed. It was never transferred to your names. Emma's voice rose to that familiar shriek that had manipulated me for years. You can't just sell our home. I can sell my own property, I replied evenly, which is exactly what I did. This is theft. David was practically shouting now, spittle flying from his mouth. We'll sue you for everything you have. With what money? I asked calmly. I believe your credit cards were declined in Madrid. Michael whispered something to Jessica, who nodded and started walking toward their front door. Their front door now. Please go inside, I told them kindly. This family dispute doesn't concern you. Emma's voice turned desperate, reaching for the manipulation tactics that had worked for so many years. Dad, where are we supposed to live? Where are all our things? I extended the manila envelope I'd been holding. David snatched it with shaking hands, tearing it open with angry, desperate fingers. He read aloud, his voice cracking. Secure Store Storage Facility, Unit 23C, Pine Avenue. Storage? Emma's voice broke completely. You put our entire life in storage? I preserved everything very carefully, I said. First month's rent is already paid. David crumpled the paper in his fist. This is insane. You can't do this to family. Family doesn't exclude fathers from family vacations while using their credit cards to pay for expensive meals. That's completely different, Emma shrieked. Is it? David stepped closer, trying to intimidate me through physical proximity, a tactic that might have worked on the old me. We'll contest this sale. We'll fight you in court and drag this out for years. The sale is completely legal. The property was mine to sell. Emma's voice turned manipulative, reaching for that little girl tone she'd used since childhood when she wanted something. Daddy, how could you do this to your own daughter? I'm your little girl. I looked at her for a long moment, seeing not my little girl, but a grown woman who'd systematically used and discarded me. How could you do what you did to your own father? Jessica emerged from the house, genuine concern in her voice. Is everything going to be all right? Should we come back later? Everything's perfect, I said to her with a warm smile. Enjoy your beautiful new home. Emma and David stood on the sidewalk next to their Spanish luggage, looking like tourists who'd taken a very wrong turn into someone else's nightmare. I walked back to my car with measured, confident steps, my work boots solid and sure on the pavement. This isn't over, David shouted behind me, his voice cracking with desperation. I got into my car and started the engine, classical music resuming exactly where it had left off. Yes, I said to myself with deep satisfaction. It absolutely is. 3 months later, I was reading the morning paper in my kitchen when my doorbell rang. A process server handed me legal documents. Emma and David's lawsuit, exactly as I'd expected. I signed for the papers without surprise or concern. By that afternoon, I was reviewing the court's decision in the same kitchen. The lawsuit had been dismissed completely. The judge's ruling was thorough and unsympathetic to their claims. Property owner had absolute legal right to sell his own property. Plaintiffs have provided no evidence of any legal ownership claim. The court had even ordered Emma and David to pay my attorney fees for filing a frivolous lawsuit. My lawyer called within the hour. Complete victory, Gary. They have no grounds for appeal whatsoever. The local newspaper ran a small article the next day. Family property dispute resolved. Court upholds property rights. I filed everything in my new folder labeled Legal Victory and moved on with my day. The town's gossip network had been buzzing for months. At the coffee shop, I overheard whispered conversations. I always thought that son-in-law seemed entitled and disrespectful. Gary Martinez worked hard his whole life. He deserves so much better than that. Some disapproving voices murmured, family should stick together through anything. But I'd learned to let other people's opinions roll off me like water off a duck's back. Running into Robert Kim at the hardware store, he asked with genuine concern, "How are you handling everything, Gary?" "Better than I ever expected," I replied honestly. That same afternoon, I visited the animal shelter I'd noticed months earlier. A volunteer named Sarah introduced me to Bruno, a 4-year-old German Shepherd mix who'd been surrendered when his family moved overseas. "He's been with a family since he was a puppy," Sarah explained. "Great with people, loves car rides, and he's looking for someone who won't abandon him." I knelt down, and Bruno approached immediately, tail wagging like he'd been waiting specifically for me. The connection was instant and mutual, Bruno sensing my loneliness, me recognizing his need for a companion who wouldn't treat loyalty as a burden. An hour later, Bruno was riding shotgun in my car, head out the window, ears flapping in the wind. Both of us heading toward something completely new. That first night, he slept by my bed, and for the first time in months, neither of us felt alone in the world. With Bruno at my feet, I researched travel trailers online. Best RVs for retirement travel led me to articles about freedom, adventure, and second chances. At RV dealerships, salespeople were eager to help a cash buyer. I test drove a 28-foot Airstream, perfect size for one person and a dog who'd already claimed the passenger seat before we'd even finished the paperwork. I used the profit from the house sale plus some savings to purchase it outright, no financing needed. Bruno loved RV life immediately, as if he'd been born for adventure. We planned our route carefully. National parks, small mountain towns, places I'd always dreamed of seeing but had postponed for family obligations that were never really obligations at all. The morning we left Millbrook, my house was prepared for extended absence. I'd arranged for mail forwarding and asked my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, to keep an eye on the property. Loading the trailer, I packed camping gear, Bruno's supplies, and one small photo album, pictures of Emma as a child, before disappointment and greed changed us both forever. Bruno sensed adventure coming, his excitement infectious as I started the engine and checked the trailer connection one final time. We drove through Millbrook slowly, past familiar places that looked smaller now, less important. Passing Elm Street, I saw Michael and Jessica's children playing in the front yard, a little boy on a tricycle, a toddler taking wobbly steps on the grass. The house was finally filled with the joy and laughter it was meant to hold. The highway sign read, Rocky Mountain National Park, 600 miles. Bruno had his head out the window, my hands steady and confident on the steering wheel. Both of us finally, completely free. That evening, we stopped at a scenic overlook in Colorado. I set up a camping chair as the sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple I'd never taken time to notice before. Bruno settled beside me, content and loyal, with no agenda beyond simple companionship. The mountain air was crisp and clean, filled with possibilities I'd forgotten existed. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I was exactly where I belonged, with exactly the companion I deserved. As the stars appeared one by one in the vast Colorado sky, I realized that sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to stop funding other people's dreams and start living your own. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything to us. To hear our next incredible story of justice and redemption, click on the video that just appeared on your screen.